Everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I am delighted to be talking with someone that I met in person over the summer at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that is comics creator, educator Kayla E. Kayla, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be chatting with you today.
It's a pleasure. It is absolutely a pleasure. I know you for a book that is, I believe, on the way, Precious Rubbish.
That's
Um,
correct.
I know you from interacting at Heroes Con, and then I also think you were on a panel a few years ago that I was really interested in about sort of telling your story in comics.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I've luckily been on a panel every year. I've tabled at Heroes, which I think I'm going on. I think this was my fourth year, but they
Mhm.
always take care of me at that con. That's my favorite con. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it there. Organizers are so sweet, and yeah, I always get to participate. And usually like a memoir themed or LGBTQ plus themed panel. So I think maybe, yeah, the one that was last year might have been a memoir one because this year was LGBTQ plus.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great to share there and great to share that space. I'm also a Heroes Con fan and have become a fan of your work, your particular style, and I'm always interested in hearing what connects people with reading and comics. I think it's just the English teacher and
Hmm.
literacy person in me. So that's our first official question, that connection point.
Yeah, sure. So I am like trained classically as a visual artist. I studied fine art in undergrad and learned oil painting, how to stretch canvases, all that good stuff. I went to an arts magnet high school as well, so I like have a lot of training as a visual artist and didn't try my hand at making comics until my freshman year of college. I took a seminar that was like alternative American comics kind of randomly because I had no I grew up like in a trailer in a small town in Texas, so I didn't necessarily have exposure to comics outside of newspaper comics. Um and so I just was like, ooh, like what does that even mean? Like what are alternative comics? So I took this course, blew my mind. Like reading art comics for the first time really changed something in me, and it changed the way that I saw my practice as an artist and what the possibilities were for storytelling. And all of my work essentially has been autobiographical in any form that it takes, whether it's like performance and video or sculpture, painting, comics, obviously. So I read Jimmy Corrigan in that class by Chris Ware, and I just had never read anything that was able to sort of communicate like the human experience so intimately. And
Yeah.
I was really moved. And I was reading like all the other books, that she was teaching. We were reading American Splendor, Fun Home, and it just was like it all changed. Nothing was the same from that point on. And I really started to understand that it was this form. There's something magical in this form that allows you to really get at like just the meat of the human experience in like almost a divine way that I feel like other art forms can't even come close. Like, and I'm a loyal fine artist, but like comics are the way to go for me, at least for like the way the stories that I'm interested in telling. I just like was so excited to sort of discover comics as a vehicle for me to tell stories of my childhood, specifically stories about childhood trauma. And so I ended up like taking a gap year at Harvard to publish, to self-publish mini comics. Like there was no way to study it outside of that random seminar that isn't even still currently taught. I think it was maybe just that semester. I got so lucky. Yeah, I've just been making comics ever since. And I'm still making other forms of art, but I strongly prefer making comics, I think. No, I know.
I was interested in that memoir connection and what comics allow you to do personally, because I know sometimes people come at them and maybe they've seen a classics adaptation or maybe they've seen a superhero comic, but comics can really be anything.
Yes. And I feel like there's still so much to explore and experiment with this medium. I mean, like we're in the 30s, George Harriman was like pushing it to the edges, like so early. But I still think that there's like so much room for different kinds of stories to be told and like
Mhm.
different ways of like just like messing with the form and just breaking the rules of it that I find very exciting. I think it's a really exciting medium and art form, but specifically, I find it to be such a beautiful way to tell stories about abuse, fractured memory specifically. I've found that by being able to, so I have usually like a few different narratives running in the same, 3-page comic. And my book is composed of a bunch of short comics that sort of paint a picture of my whole childhood. There's like gag comics, there are puzzles, paper dolls, all sorts of things in there. But I find that being able to draw the images and have that tell one story. And all of my images are referential of mid-century children's comics. So using that as a way to like pull in comics history, but also like interrogate that time period of family depiction,
Mhm.
and sort of twist that and turn it on its head and show what really happens in homes to little kids. Because you read Dennis the Menace and Little Lulu, and as precious as it is,
Mhm.
it paints a picture that just isn't real life. And I think that had a very strong impact on me as a child, reading those comics and Archie comics, like feeling so dirty and alienated and ugly and just poor compared to the kids in Riverdale. So I think that those comics specifically, I'm interested in using those visuals and subverting that. But then also sometimes I'll have captions that are telling maybe one side of a story of a memory, and then the speech bubbles will then speak to something else. Sometimes I'll have like scripture in those, where like it's pulling from the book of Job and like trying to get at some sort of like existential pain while I'm telling the story of trying to remember what happened to me as a little girl, with my biological father. And then the visuals, for example, in that particular comic are a subversion of like a big bad wolf story, where I replace the character with myself as a child. So all that to say, there's just like so many ways to manipulate comics to get at something as complicated as gaps in memory, and trying to like wrestle with memory. And I've really been enjoying the process of rewriting my comics as I go deeper into my recovery. I start to recover more memories. And
Mhm.
so I go back into work that I've already made that, once it's in the book, it's done. But up until then, I'm able to rewrite it. I'm like, I delete chunks of text and I update it according to like what I now know to be true about what happened to me. And again, I love the flexibility of that form, and especially since I do all my comics work digitally.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was going to ask about your style as well, and it sounds like it's reflective of a lot of the things that you've consumed, but also you now have the chance to comment using that style as well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, and I think that it really opens up the potential like audience of new readers. So like that imagery, the younger generation doesn't know what I'm referencing, but they find it really punchy and inviting and exciting to look at, which I love. And like
Mhm.
the older generations are so excited because they absolutely understand the references. So like from all these different ways, I'm able to pull in new readers who then are able to find themselves mirrored in the work in a way that was unexpected. And I've met so many people who have disclosed their own experiences with childhood trauma. When I'm tabling, at these fests, they see the work, they're drawn in by the colors, they start to look at the comics, and then they're like this is my story that I've never seen before. And that is like such a profound thing that happens, between the readers and myself. And I love that like punchy reference is like really the thing that like pulls people in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you mentioned that you work digitally. I was going to ask about some of your process as well and how that
Yeah.
unfolds.
Yeah, it's really I have a really unusual way of making comics that I recently I don't feel shame about it anymore, but I used to feel embarrassed because like I would see other cartoonists who like have sketchbooks and they're constantly drawing, and they start with pencil and then they ink it. And like I was reading Ernie, like something Ernie Bushmiller wrote about how he starts with the last panel first and he works backwards. I read that this morning actually, and I was like, that makes me feel so much better. I don't do it that way, but I do like, okay, so let me see if I can try and explain it. It's weird. Like, I don't have a schedule for making comics. It's like whenever I get like struck, as like stupid as that sounds, it's a real thing that happens to me. I'll feel like stirred and I'll like something will rattle in my brain and I'll like try to start putting like wrapping my head around like the specific memory that is coming up for me and like what the significance of it is and like what it might be connected to and like what like trauma it might be connected to, if any, what relationships am I trying to like explore with this. And so I'll like take like a little note and I'll like write down like one sentence of what that memory is. And then usually if I feel like, okay, I think that I'll be able to understand this memory better if I make a comic out of it. I have no idea what story I'm going to tell, but I start mining through the public domain and I just like am reading. I just immerse myself in mid-century kids comics. And then if I see a visual or narrative structure
Uh-huh.
that fits, I don't know how to explain it. It just will fit. I'll just be like, oh, this like random Super Duck comic from like 1956. Like, oh, that's the framework. And so I'll start like drawing, referencing that story, putting my characters in it, changing it as I see fit, adding, starting to write as I'm drawing it, and then adding in the speech bubbles and filling it in. And then by the end, I'm like, oh, that's what it is. I don't know till I'm done. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's like I just follow whatever intuition I have, whatever the instinct is. And I've like really found that if I pay respects to that urge, something really beautiful and honest comes from that. And so that's my strange, way of making comics. So a little, woo-woo, but it is what it is.
I love the research that you fold into it. That's so
Hmm.
interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm a comics head. I love reading comics. So that's like just, I think that's probably like why that's a part of my practice is just because I thoroughly enjoy it. And I just find those comics so inspiring, just like the skillfulness of it and the playfulness of those comics. Like there's just like these invisible cartoonists who were doing like really interesting things with the form. And coming up with such like wild characters and doing fun things with proportions and the outfits of the character. It's just I love it. I love everything about it. The colors, the lettering. It's just I find it very inspiring.
Now, I mentioned at the outset that you're also an educator. Is there a way that your work as an educator informs your creativity? Is that kind of a creative cycle for you at all, or do you keep them sort of in their own parking lots?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even really formally identify as an educator because I'm not like I'm not like currently practicing teaching.
Mhm.
But when I do workshops or I'm able to do college visits, I do a lot of college visits where like I'll visit students in the classroom and they share their creative writing with me. And I will say that the thing that has impacted me the most about working with young people and working with students has been their absolute earnestness in
Mhm.
relating to the work. And that has a direct impact on my investment in my practice. It doesn't change the work I make, but it changes the belief I have in the impact that the work can have. And that has been a game changer for me because in isolation, making this work is so horrible. It's so traumatic, super triggering. I do not like it, which is why I don't just make comics for fun, you know. And then when I have the experience, which is fairly recent, to connect with these students who just like are so moved by this work, and I had no idea. I had no idea how this was going to reach people, if it even was. I just didn't know, I'm relatively unpublished until this book comes out. So that has been such a beautiful experience and has given me the confidence and the willingness to speak about my work, to do something like this because I believe in it now. Because these young people have like shown me that it can mean something to people. And so I feel invested now in advocating for the work. And it has given me a confidence as an artist that I've never had before. Because it's so beautiful to see my pain transmuted into something that is mirroring and helping other people. There's no other experience like it for me. I found it to be like truly life changing.
Yeah, yeah, the healing power of creativity.
Yeah, it's no joke. It can really like change people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the book, so this is a perfect opportunity to say a little bit more about that. Anything about the process, the release date, the inspiration that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, yeah. So April 8th, 2025 is when it comes out from Fantagraphics, and I'm so excited. I currently got some wet proofs in the mail, so I was able to like make sure that the colors are printing, the colors are going to print accurately and like make sure I like the paper and all that. So we're in sort of the technical phase of it, and I get to be like very hands-on with it because I work at Fantagraphics as creative director, so this is just my job. And so I get to like art direct my own book and be a part of the like behind the curtain aspect of the production of it, which has been so much fun. I love it. I'm really loving it. And so when they acquired the book, I wasn't working there. So I didn't know when Fantagraphics picked up my book that I was going to be able to have this experience behind the scenes, but it's been so much fun. And I'm currently like starting to think about publicity and like talking with my publicist at Fantagraphics about like where best to like sort of put our attention and focus. And I'm thinking about like kind of alternatives to a traditional book tour. I think as I was speaking about connecting with students, I'm really interested in doing a school book tour, which I think we talked about at Heroes.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
really want to like meet and reach as many young people as possible, high school, older high school to college age. And so I'm trying to do a book tour that is getting the book on like different syllabi across the country and planning in-person class visits after they're able to read the work, to create this sort of like more intimate connection, from reader to author, and be able to like answer questions. And yeah, it's such an amazing experience. So I'm really excited. I've connected with educators already, so I'm kind of like laying the groundwork for that. And it's been fun. It's like the hard part's over. Now it's just like I don't have to make this awful work, I can just be excited about, how it might help people. So it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if I am an educator or a reader out there, and I want to find out more, where might I go?
Yes. So you can go to kaylaework.com is my personal art website. And I'm on Instagram at precious.rubbish. And then also Fantagraphics has like you can pre-order the book either on Amazon, or Fantagraphics. And if you do, follow me on Instagram and show me your receipt because I'm mailing people special mini comics as a thank you, just like a free treat. So yeah, if anyone pre-orders the book, definitely track me down and show me your receipt and I'll send you something special.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, have we missed anything that you want to make sure to share before we close out?
I don't think so. I think you covered all the bases. Thank you.
We try, absolutely. Well, so glad that I ran into you at Heroes Con, and so glad to talk with you and share about the book. I'll have an image or two of it pop up in the video here as we're talking in this nice space between us here. Uh,
Excellent.
and glad to have you back anytime.
Thank you so much. It was good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks.
All right. Bye.